Every spring you load a cart at the nursery with the exact same plants you bought last year, not because they died. Some of them actually came back, but because you never had enough, the gaps needed filling, and the price didn't seem that bad until you added it up at the register. This is not a coincidence. Seed companies and nurseries are financially rewarded every single time you don't know which plants propagate themselves. For free. They have no reason to tell you. Garden media, funded by nursery advertising, has no reason to tell you either. This channel does. Every plant on this list drops its own seed, germinates in your soil without your help, and multiplies into free plants season after season. You buy it once. It handles the rest, permanently. Here are the 15 plants that actually pay you back, starting with 5 that most gardeners are dramatically underusing right now. Number 1. Columbine or Aquilegia. No other part-shade perennial reseeds this aggressively while producing flowers this structurally complex. It thrives in zones 3 to 9. Southern gardeners in zones 8 to 9 should choose Aquilegia canadensis over European hybrids. The Macana Giants variety offers large bicolor blooms with exceptional seed vigor. Little Lanterns is a compact canadensis type in red and yellow, built for tight borders. And the Origami Mix features upward-facing blooms that maintain good color consistency across a self-seeded drift. Here is what almost no one tells you about Columbine. The self-seeded offspring revert toward the straight species. You get simpler flowers, stronger constitutions, and plants better adapted to your specific soil. Most gardeners see this as a failure. It is actually the plant improving itself. One plant produces 200 to 500 seeds per season. At a 50% germination rate, that is 20 to 40 transplantable starts annually. At $10 retail per pot, that is $200 to $400 in nursery value. Every single year, compounding. Number 2, yarrow, or Achillea millefolium. Yarrow is the only flowering perennial that thrives in compacted, drought-stressed soil and still seeds aggressively enough to cover a bare slope in just 2 seasons. It grows in zones 3 to 9. Pacific Northwest coastal gardeners will see explosive performance from mild winters and moist springs. The paprika variety opens flame red and fades to salmon, offering 3 seasons of color from one flush. Moonshine provides a clean sulfur yellow with strong gray foliage and great structural presence. Cerise Queen is hot pink, an aggressive cedar, and never needs staking. Here is what almost no one tells you about yarrow. Deadheading it shuts down self-seeding almost entirely. Gardeners who tidy up spent heads are accidentally opting out of free plants every season. Leave 1/3 of the flower heads standing. One clump generates 10,000 to 20,000 seeds. Even at a 1 to 3% establishment rate, that is 100 to 600 new plants. At $8 per pot, that is $800 to $4,800 in annual replacement value from a single crown. Number 3. Verbena bonariensis. No other mid-border plant delivers transparent purple from July through a hard frost, while seeding itself into every open patch of ground within 15 feet. It overwinters in zones 7 to 11. Gardeners in zones 5 and 6 treat it as a self-replacing annual. The seedlings simply make the gap invisible. The lollipop variety is compact at 18 to 24 inches with the same flower but better wind resistance. Buenos Aires reaches full species height at 4 to 5 feet, with the longest bloom season. It is the first choice for pollinators. Here is what almost no one tells you about Verbena bonariensis. It needs light to germinate. Seeds buried under fall mulch will not sprout. Gardeners who overmulch cut off their own pipeline and never know why it didn't return. One plant sets 1,000 to 3,000 seeds. At 60 to 80% germination, you get 50 to 200 viable new plants per parent. At $5 per start, that is $250 to $1,000 in nursery value annually. Drop your USDA zone in the comments and tell me whether Verbena bonariensis is already in your garden. I want to know where this plant is working hardest. Number 4. Black-eyed Susan, or Rudbeckia hirta. Rudbeckia converts neglected ground into a full wildflower stand in 2 seasons without any help from you. It grows in zones 3 to 9. Indian summer blooms up to 6 inches across on strong stems. Cherry Brandy features burgundy-flushed petals that seed with high color fidelity. Toto Gold has a 10-inch compact habit perfect for front-of-border seeding. Here is what almost no one tells you about Black-eyed Susan. Rudbeckia hirta is a biennial. Gardeners yank first-year seedlings thinking they are sick because they haven't bloomed yet. Leave them alone. One plant yields 1,000 to 3,000 seeds at 70 to 85% germination. That is 40 to 200 transplantable starts per season. At $8 per pot, you are looking at up to $1,600 annually. Number 5. Foxglove, or Digitalis purpurea. Foxglove is the most powerful self-seeding machine in the shade garden. Yet most gardeners treat it as a disposable annual and forfeit everything. It grows in zones 4 to 9. Zone 4 gardeners should add Digitalis grandiflora for longer-lived clumps. Camelot Cream offers first-year flowering, dense spikes, and no stem flop. Pam's Choice is white with a purple-spotted interior, offering strong color fidelity in its offspring. Sutton's Apricot provides the cleanest salmon tone in the entire species. Here is what almost no one tells you about foxglove. Like verbena, it needs surface light to germinate. Rake seeds under compost in the fall, and you have solved the mystery of why yours never returned. One spike produces up to 1 million seeds. Even at a 0.1% establishment rate, you still get 30 to 80 transplantable starts. At $10 retail, that is $300 to $800 per plant per season. Part 2. The Discarded Wealth. Plants 6 through 10 include one that most gardeners are actively pulling out of their beds right now without realizing what they are losing. Number 6. Feverfew, or Tanacidum parthenium. Feverfew is the only short-lived perennial that seeds itself so relentlessly. It functionally behaves like a weed, except every plant it produces is worth money. It grows in zones 5 to 9. In zone 5, parent plants may winter kill, but the self-seeded offspring survive because the seed overwinters hardier than the parent. Orium features chartreuse foliage and daisy white blooms. It doubles as a foliage plant through the full season. Ball's Ultra Double White offers fully doubled pompon flowers that seed with reasonable type fidelity. Snowball has a compact 10-inch mounding habit. It is cleaner than the straight species for formal edges. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow feverfew. The seed viability window is extremely short. Seeds lose their germination capacity within 1 year, which means freshly dropped seed in your garden outperforms anything you buy in a packet at a hardware store. Your soil bank is always fresher than their inventory. One plant sets 3,000 to 10,000 seeds per season. Even at a 5% establishment rate, that is 150 to 500 new plants. At $6 per pot, you get $900 to $3,000 in annual nursery value from a plant most gardeners yank as a weed on site. Number 7. Lunaria, also known as Honesty. Lunaria is the only biennial in the shade garden that produces an architectural seed pod so beautiful. Florists charge premium prices for the dried stems. Meanwhile, the plant itself seeds freely enough to colonize an entire woodland edge in 3 years. Zones 4 to 8. Pacific Northwest gardeners get the most vigorous naturalization due to cool, moist springs. Alba variegata has white flowers with cream-edged foliage. It is exceptional for container edges and shaded borders. Munstead Purple is deep violet. It has the richest color in the species with a strong self-seeding rate. Chedglow features golden yellow foliage contrasting against purple blooms, which is striking in low light. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Lunaria. The silver seed pods you see in fall arrangements are not the end of the plant's value. They are seed delivery systems. Each pod holds 4 to 6 seeds with a papery wing designed for wind travel. If you harvest every stem for arrangements before the pods shatter, you harvest your entire next generation with it. Leave 30% of the stems standing. One plant produces 80 to 150 seed pods. With 4 to 6 seeds each, that is 320 to 900 seeds per plant. At germination rates of 70 to 85%, you get 224 to 765 viable seedlings. At $8 per pot, one Lunaria plant represents $1,792 to $6,120 in recoverable nursery value annually. If that math just changed the way you think about a plant you've been ignoring or cutting down, there is an entire library of this coming. Subscribe right now. Not when this ends right now. Because Section 3 has the plant that made me rethink how I budget for my garden entirely. Number 8. Sweet William, or Dianthus barbatus. Sweet William is the only biennial in the cottage garden that seeds itself so aggressively across zone lines it performs like a true perennial everywhere it lands. Zones 3 to 9. Southern gardeners in zones 8 to 9 get the best performance by treating it as a cool season self-seeder that overwinters as a rosette and blooms before the summer heat arrives. Nigrescens features near black foliage and deep burgundy blooms. It seeds with dramatic color retention. Electron Mix provides vibrant mixed colors on compact 12-inch stems. It is a reliable self-seeder across varied soils. Heart Attack is the darkest red available in the species, providing strong contrast against silver or gray companions. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Sweet William. It cross-pollinates freely with other Dianthus species. If you grow it near Dianthus deltoides or Dianthus plumarius, your second-generation seedlings will be unique hybrids found nowhere in any catalog. Your garden becomes a breeding program by accident. One plant produces 200 to 400 seeds at 75% germination. Expect 50 to 150 transplantable starts per season. At $7 per pot, that is $350 to $1,050 in annual nursery replacement value. Number 9. Joe Pye weed, or Eutrochium purpureum. Joe Pye weed is the only back-of-border native that seeds itself into towering pollinator-loaded drifts while simultaneously being one of the most underplanted perennials in American gardens, zones 4 to 9. Midwest and Eastern gardeners get native range performance, with Eutrochium maculatum gateway as the superior selection for northern zones. Gateway has a 5-foot compact habit versus the 7-foot species. It has stiff stems and exceptional seed set. Little Joe is a 3 to 4 foot dwarf selection for smaller gardens. It seeds freely despite its reduced stature. Phantom features darker rose-purple flower clusters. It offers strong butterfly attraction and reliable Zone 4 performance. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Joe Pye weed. It needs a cold stratification period to germinate reliably. Seeds that fall naturally in your garden and experience winter freeze-thaw cycles will out-germinate any seed you start indoors without replicating. That cold shock first. Nature's timing is the instruction manual. One mature clump produces thousands of seeds annually. At a conservative 10% establishment, you get 100 to 300 new plants per clump. At $12 per gallon pot, that is $1,200 to $3,600 in nursery value from a plant most gardeners consider too large to bother with. Number 10. Penstemon, or Penstemon digitalis. Penstemon digitalis is the only native perennial that bridges full sun and part shade while seeding itself persistently enough to fill a mixed border edge in 2 seasons flat. Zones 3 to 8. Penstemon strictus is the better self-seeder for Rocky Mountain and high-elevation western gardeners. Husker Red has burgundy foliage from spring through frost with white flowers. It seeds with partial color retention in offspring. Dark Towers is a deeper burgundy than Husker Red with larger flowers and has strong stem rigidity in the wind. Prairie Dusk features rosy purple blooms on the straight species. It is an aggressive cedar with the best naturalistic performance of any selection. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow penstemon. Most gardeners cut it back hard in the fall, which removes the seed heads before dispersal is complete. Penstemon releases seed gradually through winter. The dried capsules crack open during freeze-thaw cycles and deposit seed exactly where soil conditions are right. Cut it back in early spring instead. One plant produces 500 to 2,000 seeds at 40 to 60% germination. That is 200 to 1,200 viable seedlings per season. At $9 per pot, you get $1,800 to $10,800 in nursery value from a perennial most gardeners treat as mere filler. If the plants in this section are already earning money you didn't know your garden was capable of making, hit like, because that number gets larger in section 3, and you will want a way to find this video again when you are standing in the nursery deciding what to buy. Mid-roll, the system. The final 5 plants include the one that stopped me cold the first time I calculated what I had been leaving on the table. And it is not the plant you are expecting. But before we get to the last 5, I want to tell you something I don't say enough. I spent 11 years figuring this out by trial and error, buying plants that didn't return, pulling seedlings I didn't recognize, overmulching beds and killing germination cycles I didn't know existed. Everything in this video is knowledge I assembled slowly, expensively, and mostly alone. The self-seeding systems, the compounding plant value, the garden that restocks itself. That is only one half of the picture. The other half is knowing how to time your plantings, sequence your harvests, and keep something producing in every bed through every season. Those 2 halves together are what I wish someone had handed me in year 1. It would have changed everything about how I spent my time and my money. That framework is exactly what Samantha Terry built into the year-round harvest blueprint. It is not just a plant list. It is not just a schedule. It is the feeling of walking into your garden in March and knowing exactly what is coming, what to do, and what you will never have to buy again. Certainty instead of guessing. No empty beds, no missed windows. The price on this goes up at the end of the week, so grab it at the link in the pinned comments right now. And while you are doing that, let's finish this list. Part 3. The Compounding Giants. Number 11. Baptisia, or Baptisia australis. Baptisia is the only native perennial that builds a permanent woody crown that lives for 50 years, while dropping seed pods that rattle like maracas and self-sow reliably across a wide zone range, zones 3 to 9. It performs as a true long-lived perennial throughout, with no regional substitutions necessary. Purple smoke offers blue-violet blooms with smoky gray stems. It has an architectural presence from April through frost. Decadence Blueberry Sundae is a compact 24-inch habit in deep indigo. It fits smaller borders without sacrificing seed production. Starlight Prairie Blues is bicolor white and blue. It has an earlier bloom time and a strong pod set. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Baptisia. It resents transplanting so deeply that nursery-grown specimens spend their first 2 to 3 years sulking rather than establishing. Self-seeded offspring that germinate in place and never get moved will outperform transplanted $30 container plant within 4 years. Let the seeds land where they fall. One mature plant produces 20 to 40 seed pods with 6 to 8 seeds each. That is 120 to 320 seeds per season. At 30 to 50% germination, expect 36 to 160 new plants annually. At $18 per pot, that is $648 to $2,880 in nursery value from a plant that also lives half a century. Number 12, Allium or Allium stipitatum. No other bulb-forming perennial self-seeds and offsets simultaneously, doubling its colony through 2 completely independent reproduction systems at once. Zones 4 to 8. Western gardeners should look at Allium christophi as a companion species with equally aggressive seed behavior in dry climates. Mount Everest features white globes on 36-inch stems. It seeds freely with exceptional contrast in mixed borders. Violet Beauty is deep violet on a strong stem. It is one of the most reliable self-seeders in the genus. Ambassador has the largest flower head in the species at 6 inches across on 4-foot stems. It seeds with vigor despite its massive size. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow allium. The seedlings look exactly like grass for their entire first year. Gardeners weed them out by the hundreds without knowing it. Flag one small area after you see seed drop in the summer. Leave it completely undisturbed and identify what comes up before you touch anything near it in the spring. One plant produces 50 to 200 seeds, plus 2 to 5 offsets annually. At $4 per bulb at retail, a single established clump returns $200 to $800 in combined seed and offset value every single season. Number 13. Liatris or Liatris spicata. Liatris is the only native prairie perennial that blooms top-down, defying every rule of how flowers open, while self-seeding into unmown areas with enough aggression to naturalize a dry slope in 3 seasons. Zones 3 to 9. Liatris pycnostakia is the superior self-seeder for Midwest prairie gardeners wanting full naturalization. Cobalt has a compact 18-inch habit in intense rose purple. It has a reliable seed set despite its dwarf stature. Floristan Violet features tall 36-inch spikes with an earlier bloom. It is an exceptional cut flower and seed producer. Alba is white-flowered and softer in mixed borders. It seeds true with good frequency. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Liatris. The seeds are wind-dispersed with a feathery attachment identical to a dandelion, and birds actively eat them. Your colony will expand in the direction of the prevailing wind, and along the paths birds travel between your garden and the surrounding landscape. You do not control where it goes. You only decide whether it starts. One plant produces 200 to 500 seeds annually at 50 to 70% germination. That is 100 to 350 new plants per season. At $9 per pot, you get $900 to $3,150 in annual nursery value from a plant most gardeners place once and completely forget. Number 14. Yarrow's overlooked cousin, Achillea ptarmica. Achillea ptarmica, also known as sneezewort, is the white flowering achillea that spreads by both rhizome and seed simultaneously. This means it colonizes ground faster than any other plant in the genus. Zones 3 to 9 across the board. The pearl offers fully doubled white pompon flowers. It spreads aggressively by both roots. It is a true cottage garden staple. Perry's white has larger doubled flowers than the pearl with a slightly more restrained spread. It is better for controlled borders. Stephanie Cohen has single white flowers. It is the most prolific self-seeder of the 3, making it best for naturalistic plantings. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Achillea ptarmica. Most gardeners only know the yellow Achilleas and walk right past this one entirely in the nursery. That is your entire advantage. A plant this vigorous, with this little competition for space in most gardens, will give you a free border in 2 seasons. One established clump generates 5,000 to 15,000 seeds, plus a rhizome spread of 12 to 18 inches per season. At $8 per pot, a conservative transplantable start yield of 30 to 80 plants represents $240 to $640 annually, before even accounting for division value. Before plant 15, Drop a comment telling me which plant on this full list surprised you the most. I read everyone. I want to know what landed. Number 15. Nigella, or Nigella damascena. I saved this one deliberately because it does something none of the other 14 can do. It self-seeds fast enough to fill a bed within a single growing season, not years, completing its entire life cycle and dropping a new generation before the summer even ends. No other plant on this list works at that speed. Nigella is a hardy annual that behaves like a self-perpetuating perennial because it seeds 2 generations in one season in mild climates. Zones 2 to 11 as a self-seeding annual. No zone is excluded. Miss Jekyll features sky blue semi-double flowers. It is the definitive cottage garden selection, seeding with exceptional vigor. Persian Jewels is mixed pink, white, and lavender. It offers a reliable color range in offspring and strong ornamental pod production. Albion Black Pod has white flowers with near black seed pods. It gives dual season interest, and the pods are highly valued by florists. Here is the fact that changes everything about how you grow Nigella. Do not deadhead it under any circumstances. The inflated papery seed pods that follow the flowers are the entire reproductive engine. Each pod holds 50 to 100 seeds. At 60 to 80% germination across 2 generations per season, one original plant produces 2,000 to 5,000 viable seedlings annually. At $4 per 6-pack start, one plant returns $1,200 to $3,000 in nursery value within a single growing season. Nothing else on this list does that. Conclusion. Every year you spend restocking your garden, you are paying a subscription to an industry that was engineered to need you back. It was designed that way. The plants on this list cancel that subscription permanently. Not just for this season, but for every season after it. The seeds your garden drops this fall will still be producing plants decades from now, long after you have forgotten you ever made a single purchase. That is the kind of investment that compounds without a brokerage account. Subscribe and hit the bell. This channel is built entirely around information the industry profits from you not having. Then, drop your zone and the one plant you are starting with in the comments below. I want to build a map of where these plants are working. The best garden decision you make this year might be the last one you ever have to make twice.